the climate after 9/11 and the climate today is the same, that people are very anxious to show that they are not Islamophobic. They're very anxious to show that they are not racist and bigoted because Islamic groups in the US, such as the Hamas-linked Council on American Islamic Relations and others, have done an extraordinarily skillful job and successful job in company with the leftists of the establishment media of making people assume, wrongly, but nonetheless, people assume that if you say that Muhammad taught terror, that the Quran teaches terror, that the Quran teaches warfare against unbelievers, that therefore you hate Muslims, that therefore you're saying every Muslim is a terrorist. Now, that doesn't follow any more than if you say, Jesus said, love your enemies and turn the other cheek. Therefore, every Christian is meek, mild, gentle, sweet, kind, magnanimous, and forgiving. That would be absurd to say. And nobody has any problem understanding that. But when you say Islam teaches violence and subjugation of unbelievers, but that doesn't mean every Muslim is a terrorist, people will say, no, you're saying every Muslim is a terrorist. And this is the kind of nonsense that Candace Owens is propagating now. The reason why she's doing it is because victimhood is a prized commodity in American society today. There is nothing more lucrative and nothing more coveted, nothing more celebrated than to be a victim. And so Muslim groups have very skillfully played this card and portrayed themselves as members of a victimized group, victimized by people like me who tell the truth about Islam. And consequently, they have been able to gain entree into the highest levels of the leftist elites and have been able to gain all the rights and privileges appertaining to the status of victimhood in our society today. It's absurd, it's ridiculous, but it's the way things work. And so Candace Owens is feeding into this idea of Muslim victimhood in order to make her followers think it's wrong. We can't think about Islamic terrorism. And if Hamas goes and murders 1,200 Israelis, we can't be upset about that because we know that Islam is a religion of peace and we know how evil the Israelis and the Jews in general are, because of course Candace Owens is also telling them a lot of lies about that. And so it becomes a self-reinforcing set of false assumptions that build upon each other and feed upon each other. Candace Owens is extraordinarily irresponsible to do this because the point of playing victim and the point of tarring people who speak the truth about Islam as Islamophobes is to make people ashamed of calling out Islamic jihad violence and Sharia oppression of women and others. And that means that if those people are silenced because they're the terrible Islamophobes, according to Candace Owens, there will be more jihad violence and Sharia oppression because there will be fewer voices around to say, this should not be happening, this is wrong. People who care about human rights and the human dignity of all people should stand up against it. And so I want to say to Candace Owens right now, you can't really be serious about this. And so I'm asking you to substantiate your claims. Give us the name of the school, give us the name of the teachers, give us the materials that you were taught, because I can guarantee, 100%, I don't know where you lived, I don't know where you grew up, I don't know what school you went to, but I will go out on a limb right now and say I'm 100% certain, without any doubt whatsoever, that you were taught in school that Islam is a religion of peace that had been hijacked by a tiny minority of extremists, and that above all, we must be kind and be especially solicitous toward Muslims because they are being oppressed and victimized. The oppression and the victimization, we never actually see that, but we certainly hear a great deal said about it, and that's because it's a political weapon. And Candace Owens ought to be ashamed of herself for taking up this weapon now when the US and the world are more threatened by Islamic jihadis than they have been since 9/11.